Okay. Well, does anyone want to propose something, or shall we
I have a question.
Okay. Great.
My question is about praising the mundane good qualities of others. So is this good or bad, or praising the good qualities but they're mundane of others? So is this favorable, or how does this work into our devotional life?
Okay, well, that's a really, really excellent question. I'm really happy that you brought that up.
Can you repeat the question, and can you give us vocabulary as well about some of these terms? Mundane. Okay. Yeah, what's the question again? If you could repeat it.
Do you want to go ahead, Gary?
So, how is it that we can, or is it good or bad or what, to praise the mundane qualities of others? Good qualities, like, oh, you're praising people, they have good qualities, but they're mundane. So how does this relate to our devotional life? Because we can praise the bad qualities of others, which is called criticism, but what about praising the good qualities of others, even if they're mundane?
Okay, so this is actually a really important topic, and I'm really happy that you brought this up. By the way, I was told that I was making tapping noises, so I've moved the microphone to another location, so you can just hear if it sounds better this time. Let me know later. And there's Supriya also there joining us. Dandavat. And Doyamoy also is there, I think, near to Chinmoy. Dandavat. Okay, so we have a really nice topic for discussion. It's something that it's something that it's necessary for us to consider, because it's something that can. Okay, Chintamani left a comment here. It's something that can really lead us down the wrong path in devotional life, because we do have to distinguish between what is good in a worldly sense, in a general sense, and what is good in a spiritual sense. And there's the absolute vision, and there's the relative vision. And we can appreciate both sides. By relative, I mean pertaining to this temporary worldly plane. And by absolute, I mean pertaining to the eternal world, to the eternal, spiritual, divine world. So there is goodness from both standpoints. And we can appreciate both sides. In our devotional life, we don't eliminate either of these things. But at the same time, our main stand will always be on the absolute side. We are living in the relative world, and so for that reason, we've been identifying with the relative plane since time immemorial. We're living in that world now, and so we don't try to artificially deny that. We have to work with that and harmonize with that. But at the same time, our internal stance and our greatest affinity and our aspiration, our ideal, what we're moving towards will always be towards the absolute plane, towards truth that is eternal. So yes, this is a good point, because it can be a kind of trap, actually. Goodness, worldly goodness pertaining to the temporary world. It can be a distraction. It can be a trap. But at the same time, it is not that we will deny it. Sorry, I'm kind of jumping. I'm not really starting as I'd like to start. But I'll start with there's a famous verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and it is spoken by Mahaprabhu. There's the famous pastime when Sanatana Goswami, he contracts some illness, when he goes through some disease, when he goes through dirty water. And as a result, he gets these like boils and pus on his skin. And he becomes very shy when he goes in front of Mahaprabhu, and because he doesn't want Mahaprabhu to touch him, because Sanatana is thinking, I'm very contaminated. But Mahaprabhu, he always goes and tries to embrace him. He doesn't care. And Sanatana is always shying away. And then they have some discussion. And one thing Mahaprabhu tells him is, actually, Krishna is testing me. I'm a sannyasi. I shouldn't consider things from a worldly standpoint. And then there's this very well-known verse, which is cited by our gurus, Dvaite Bhaja Bhaja Gyam Sab Manodharma E Balo E Manda E Sab Brahma, which means to distinguish between good and bad in this world is foolish, because it is all a mistake. It is all based on illusion. So to distinguish E Balo E Manda, this is good, this is bad, E Sab Brahma, it is all illusion. It is all wrong, because the standpoint of everything in this world is false. There are good dreams and bad dreams, but they're all dreams at the end of the day. There's good prisoners and bad prisoners, but they're still prisoners. So in the same way, in this world, nothing has any firm footing. And so in the absolute sense, nothing is good in this world. And so for that reason, we have to be careful, because it's very easy to get sucked into distinguishing things in a material way. Oh, this person has so many so-called good qualities, and this person has so many so-called bad qualities, and I'm distinguishing in this way. But if neither of those persons have any affinity for the nirgun plane, by nirgun I mean that which is beyond the saguna plane. We know the three gunas, right? Sattva, Raja, and Tamas, goodness, ignorance, and passion. So this world is pervaded by these three energies, three material energies. But beyond that is the nirguna plane, means which is free from the gunas, which is free from material qualities. And so we can make a distinction between goodness, passion, ignorance, and of course there's some distinction to be made, but from the broadest standpoint, they're all more or less the same. They are all categorically different from nirguna. And the nirguna plane is completely independent. The nirguna plane, that touch of nirgun bhakti, it is not prejudiced. So for example, someone who is full of bad qualities, materially speaking, by good fortune, they may develop some connection with the nirguna plane, by which I mean to say a terrible person, I don't know if we need to go into specifics here. Let's just say a degraded person, they may, by their good fortune, make connection with the nirguna plane. Let's say if they render some service to a Vaishnava, then their journey begins. Their journey towards the absolute plane begins. Then they're on the path of nirguna bhakti. On the other hand, someone may be full of good qualities in a worldly sense, but they have no connection with the eternal world. They have no attraction, no affinity for the eternal world. And so ultimately they don't have very much value. They're still in the in the fishbowl of this material world. They may be in a better, as I said, like we can use the example of a dream. It may be a better dream, but it's still a dream. So in the absolute picture, there's not so much value to be had there. So therefore, for this reason, we have to be careful not to be, I know this is kind of not really within the, I'm going to get back to your question. I know this isn't exactly in the scope of what you were going for, but I'll get back there. But I want to touch on this because it's an important point. But for this reason, we have to not to be judgmental. You know, Krishna consciousness is for everyone. And we have to be careful not to be judgmental or prejudiced in any way, because it can be like that. You know, someone may come and show some interest, and we may think, oh, they're vegetarian, or oh, they're very well educated, they're very cultured, they're very good looking, they have such good manners, etc., etc. They're very clean. These are all like, you know, sattvic, brahminical qualities. And we may be very favorable to that person. We may glorify them so much because of these wonderful qualities they have. And then somebody else, you know, let's say they were a drug dealer, they had terrible habits, they were in prison, etc., etc., then we may discriminate against them. No. But it could be that the person who's coming from this darker background actually has something more of the nirguna touch within their heart. So we have to be careful about that. Okay, then going back to what you were addressing specifically, at the same time, it's still a good tendency to look for the good in others, to appreciate what goodness may be in others, even if it's not of the nirguna plane. You know, internally we have to make these distinctions, but in a broader sense, yes, it is a good thing to seek goodness in others. And another thing is that we are always trying to see how things may be connected with Krishna. You know? So we have what's the quote? I know a sattvic materialist. Okay. What was I saying? Oh my goodness. I've lost my, what was I just saying? Okay, that it's good to have the tendency to seek goodness. Oh, we're trying to, because we try to see how everything can be connected with Krishna. You know, so somebody may have, and this is a part of what our devotional life is about. This is what our practicing life is about. And then this also in this Brahma-Samhita verse that came up, this is also a part of that discussion, that we are, what is material within us, we are trying to connect that in the service of Krishna. And in the course of doing that, it will become purified. So, you know, there's this expression, dovetailing, right? To something's coming from here and we're connecting it with Krishna. So, you know, somebody let's say somebody has musical qualities, has musical talent, and that's actually a material quality, right? But at the same time, if that can be connected in Krishna's service, then it will take on another characteristic. It will be promoted. It will get upgraded. You know? So you know, and I mean, this is how we saw Srila Gurudev. You know, he would appreciate the good qualities, even if they were worldly qualities. He would appreciate them. You know, on a deeper level, of course, you know, Gurudev saw things in another way. You know, we saw Gurudev, he looked at both sides, you know, the relative side and the absolute side. And of course, the absolute side takes the higher position always. But on another level, you know, in a more general sense, you know, Gurudev would appreciate the good qualities that people had. You know, if people were pious, religious, you know, good-hearted, honest. Gurudev, we saw our spiritual master, he would appreciate those things. So I think you know, well, I've already said that, but you know, both sides, you know, in it, of course, most important thing is that internally we are developing a deeper vision. Internally, we can have some discrimination as to what is what, you know, and we don't want to get too carried away, you know, with the qualities that people have that are pertaining to the worldly plane. It's easy to get carried away with those things. So the important thing is that internally we maintain that discrimination within us. But then in a more general sense, yes, we do want to appreciate, and especially when it comes to the devotees, you know, we want to appreciate. And then kind of veering off into another discussion, we can say that you know, we have to be a little careful in how we praise the devotees, because we don't exactly want to praise persons for like the skills that they have, no, but we want to try to see those things as an expression of devotion. You know, really what is appreciable is always devotion, you know. So, you know, like, let's say somebody's a very good manager or a very good cook, or very good at cleaning or puja or mridanga or whatever it may be. You know, it's easy to get carried away in glorifying those devotees for those talents and, you know, that capacity that they have. But we have to try to stay a little grounded and remember that, you know, all of those things are actually useless if they don't have the connection with Krishna. And so what we want to do is to try to see, because at the same time, we don't want to just, you know, we don't want to not say anything. You know, we're not impersonalists. So then the way we can adjust that is by seeing those things and praising those things as an expression of devotion. And why is this devotee, you know, giving so much effort to cooking so nicely? It's an expression of devotion. So when I'm praising their cooking, I'm not just praising, you know, some particular skill that they have, but I'm praising their enthusiasm, their dedication, their devotion, you know, something deeper. And there's something else I wanted to say. And yeah, and also, you know, we're oh, that's what I wanted to say. Sorry, my head is just not very little fuzzy today. There's a place in Chaitanya Charitamrita where Mahaprabhu mentions this point, because it is mentioned in the scriptures. Well, we just mentioned one example of this concept, that verse, saying that we shouldn't distinguish between good and bad. But then there's also a famous verse which is saying that we should not praise or criticize the qualities of others, because everything's on a material platform. No. However, there's a place in Chaitanya Charitamrita where Mahaprabhu, he kind of like undoes that statement, saying that the injunction to not criticize is more important than the injunction to not praise. So therefore, there's, you know, criticism will never be tolerated. but for praising others, that is always a happy thing. That's okay. You know, we can get away with that. And then of course, you know, real praise will be in connection with devotion. You know, the highest kind of praise will always be in connection with the devotional plane. You know, really our movement is based on that. You know, that's what kirtan means. You know, kirtan means to praise, to glorify. And so the highest, we can also think of praise as like, as there being gradation within praise. And so the highest type of praise is praise of the highest entity and the highest truth. And that is Krishna. So that is, and that's actually one definition of Sankirtan that Srila Sridhar Maharaj gives in Golden Volcano of Divine Love. Samyak means full or complete in Kirtan. So one way, and that can be that, the word Sankirtan can be understood in different ways. What is complete Kirtan can be understood in different ways. But this is one way that Srila Sridhar Maharaj explains it as referring, it means it must be referring to Krishna, because complete praise must be praise of the most complete truth, of the highest truth. And so that can only refer to Krishna. So that is the most complete kirtan that there is, most complete praise. Okay. Well, does that answer your question? I've gone in lots of different directions.
Yes, that was a complete answer, I have to say.
Edie, can I
Thank
say
you, Vishakha.
Thank you.
Yes,
because what I find helpful when I want to praise a devotee, I always think it's good to think that Gurudev is being very merciful to them. Like if somebody has some skill and something like that, or some other quality, everything's coming to us from the will, or from Gurudev, from Krishna, then we can think, oh, this devotee is very fortunate. Gurudev has been very merciful to him.
Jai, that is beautiful. That is perfect. Yes, exactly. We can see it as an expression of mercy. Yes, very good point. Very good point. Yes, very nice. Very nice. Actually, in that point is also made in Chaitanya Charitamrita, in regards to Srila Rupa Goswami. That Swarup Damodar is, Mahaprabhu asks, because Rupa Goswami, he impresses Mahaprabhu so much, and he can understand Mahaprabhu's heart in a way that nobody else can, other than Swarup Damodar, who's the second Mahaprabhu. And so Mahaprabhu asks Swarup Damodar at one point, how is it possible that Rupa can know me so well? And Swarup Damodar replies, well, it's only possible because you must have given him your mercy. That is the only way. And there's also a nice expression there. One can know the cause by looking at the results. So by seeing a Vaishnava who is shining like this, then we know they must have received the mercy of Guru and Gauranga. So yes, that is a very, very nice point. Very nice, very important point.
Vishakha Devi, may I just ask what would be considered a like good material quality as opposed to like a good like nirgun quality?
A good material quality. Oh, we can say like the Brahminical sattvic qualities, cleanliness, honesty, vegetarian, environmentalism, all of these kind of things.
What makes them material is that they're kind of exclusive from devotion. They're not connected.
I mean, what makes them materials that they're pertaining to temporary truth. That's the difference. So, okay, well, I'll give you an example. Let's take the quality of honesty. Do you know the story of Yudhisthira Maharaj and his chariot?
Right, I'm familiar with the story, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll just quickly mention it for those who aren't. It's a nice example to highlight the contrast between these two things. when Krishna asked Yudhisthira to lie, right, in the battle of Kurukshetra, to help defeat the Kauravas and to help the cause of the Pandavas, because Yudhisthira, he's known as the embodiment of Dharma, the embodiment of righteousness. So whatever he said, everyone would have to believe it, right? And so Krishna asked Yudhisthira to lie, but Yudhisthira, he was too attached to the general conception of truth. What is truth, actually? Is truth, what we see and know with our limited vision? Is truth just the reality that presents itself to us? Or is truth what Krishna wants? If we conceive of Krishna's will as the highest truth, then that will supersede anything of what we may generally conceive of as truth. If something is serving his higher purpose, even if it contradicts on a lower level our experience of this world, what we experience to be truth, we have to submit to his will as a higher truth. So anyhow, Yudhisthira, he wasn't able to fully accept Krishna's will. Krishna asked him to announce that an elephant, he asked him to announce that Ashwatthama had died, but Yudhisthira couldn't do it. And so instead there was an elephant, Ashwatthama, who was used for this purpose. And so then Yudhisthira, he was able to announce Ashwatthama, the elephant, has died. And so it said that after that incident, Yudhisthira's chariot, which had previously always floated above the ground, it came down to the ground level. And so the ordinary scholars, they say that Yudhisthira was because he told a lie, that he'd gone along with this trick of Krishna's, that he had lost some of his purity. And so for that reason, he had to come to a lower level. But a higher interpretation of that is that because Yudhisthira wasn't able to fully embrace Krishna's will, wasn't able to fully embrace Krishna's truth, then for that reason, he had to come down. So from a worldly standpoint, Yudhisthira was perfectly honest, right? From a worldly standpoint, he gets top marks in terms of honesty and truthfulness. But from a spiritual standpoint, from a devotional standpoint, Yudhisthira was in minus there, because his action was not connected to devotion. He was serving a lower conception of truth rather than Krishna's will, which is a higher truth.
Okay.
Of course, this opens up another topic, which is that this can get dangerous. These are waters that can get a little murky, because does that mean that we can do whatever we want, whenever we want, if we think we're doing it for Krishna's cause? No, it can get very dangerous. And there are many persons who've done many foolish things in that very cause.
Right.
So then this is another important point, that we have to always make a distinction between where we are now, what's our level of practice now, and what is our ideal. That's very, very important. So everything I just said, I may hold that as the ideal, but I may not apply that here and now. And I'll give you an example of that. I was just mentioning this the other day, actually, that our Param Gurudev, grandfather Guru Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he was I don't know how much you know about our mission, but he was a very close godbrother of Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada. So Srila Sridhar Maharaj, our grandfather guru and the founder of Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math, he by nature, he was born under the same sign as Ramachandra, and he by nature was very, very dharmic. And he in fact took a vow at one point that he would never tell a lie, and he wouldn't. Even if it was necessary for service, he wouldn't.
Wow.
So he, it's not that he didn't understand, this ideal of, everything for Krishna. And I mean, there are so many places where he's spoken about this principle. But at the same time, he didn't consider himself to be qualified to serve on that level. And even the example that I'm thinking of now, we heard from our Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj, and our Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj's style was different. That he, when necessary, he would bend things a little, if it was necessary for service. So as an example, there was one occasion when our temple could have gotten into trouble because people were giving donations in foreign currency, and which was considered illegal at that time. And so there was some type of inspection that was going to take place. Some government official was going to come by. And so our Gurudev, he told Srila Sridhar Maharaj, his guru, if they ask you about these donations, just say, it's not true, everything's in rupees, just tell them that. And, it's a white lie, and it's for the service of the temple. But Srila Sridhar Maharaj just absolutely refused. And our Gurudev told him, they could put you in jail for this. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, I don't care. They can do whatever they want, but I won't tell a lie. And so then finally they negotiated it back and forth. And finally, Srila Sridhar Maharaj agreed to, if they asked him that question, Srila Sridhar Maharaj agreed to say, ask Govinda Maharaj. He's the one handling all of this, just ask Govinda Maharaj about that.
It's clever. It almost sounds like by him taking the vow to never tell a lie, he was also kind of simultaneously taking a vow to always be in service too. Very nice. Thank you for that explanation.
So yeah, I mean, and this is something that our Gurudev, he's warned about. He said that there's a very nice section in Divine Guidance. We were quoting from that last week, where he's saying that if someone is a liberated soul, if someone is serving Krishna on a liberated platform, then they can do anything and everything. But if we're not liberated, if we're still contaminated by material desires, then we have to be very careful about our actions. Because in the name of devotion, we may be doing karma. In the name of bhakti, we may be doing karma. And we will have to face the consequences for that.
Right.
So we have to be very careful. We also have to think about, in a practical sense, that, we are representing, something to the world. And so we want to try to, the way that our gurus have taught us is that we want to try to present ourselves in a dignified way. And for people to know us as, I can't think of the right word right now, but
Yeah, you're well, I guess when you take initiation, not that I have, but I suppose you're a representative of your guru as well, right? So you have that kind of responsibility.
Even if you haven't taken initiation, but if you're calling yourself a devotee of Krishna, you're wearing the neck beads, or wearing the tilak, or you're telling others you're a devotee of Krishna, then you have some responsibility. And we don't want people to think that we're all just, bums and lowlifes who will do whatever we want whenever we want, that we want to make some nice presentation. And that was a big reason, that was a big motive behind Saraswati Thakur's revolutionary mission and everything that he did. That was very important for him, because that whole principle of anything and everything for Krishna, it's very easy for it to become corrupted and
Right.
for it to be taken advantage of and used and applied in the wrong way by the wrong people.
Mm.
So for that reason, we all have some responsibility in that regard. So, we can speak in terms of principles and ideals, and that's important, but we also have to think about how and when and by who those will be applied. That's very important also. These things shouldn't be indiscriminately applied. Did that answer your original question?
Yeah, I think, and then some.
Okay, good. Yeah, I mean, it's a big subject matter, we could go on more, but I guess that's the gist of it. I see Ananda Srupani has also joined us from London. Dandavat Pranams. And we have Gaur Hari and Krishna Lalana joining us also today. That's exciting. Great to have you there in Bristol. And Govind. Dandavat Gaur Hari. Great to have you with us.
Yeah, it's very, very nice to finally catch one of these live.
You should connect with Shale. I think you two will get along.
Was that the guy who just asked that question?
Yeah, he's on the screen there.
Yeah. If you want to, I'm not sure if you'd like to send me a message on here. Maybe I could send you my WhatsApp number or something like that. It can be
Yeah, super.
I can connect you to. And Govinda Nandini is also here from Brazil. Dandavat Pranams. Great to have you with us again. Wow, we've had like such nice topics today. Really, really nice topics. Govinda Nandini, do you want to add anything? You've been very quiet.
Hi, Vishakha. Hi, everybody, Dandavat. Well, I'm impressed with this pastime of Srila Guru Maharaj. Like how liberal he is. So he made this vote to never lie, but Govinda Maharaj could lie. It's very liberal, very. I can't conceive of two great souls like.
And another thing I wanted to mention about Gurudev is Gurudev said that he never lied in his life until he came to join the temple. It wasn't his nature to be. He said, like, I was a simple village boy. I had no duplicity. I always told the truth. But out of necessity for service, when he came to join the temple, then sometimes he had to tell some white lies. But I think it's really interesting, these two, because we have to look at both examples, Srila Sridhar Maharaj's example and Srila Govinda Maharaj's example. They're both very important for us. And it's just a reminder that, we have to be careful in applying these things.
Yes, because we won't lie. It's not a license to lie.
Right, exactly. And it's always safer it's a mood of the real devotees to try to adhere to a lower position. that, oh, those who are on a higher level, they can do anything and everything, but I'm on a lower level. I'm not such a great soul, so it's better that I stick to the safe path. I'm in the junior class, like that. Yeah. Chinmoy Prabhu, you want to have any comment on any of the topics?
I was just thinking about, we're talking about Brahminical qualities, and it made me think of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya when Mahaprabhu induced him to take prasadam without bathing first.
Right. Yeah, that's such a wonderful pastime. Sarvabhauma, he was an impersonalist, a Mayavadi, and he was converted by Mahaprabhu. His heart was melted by Mahaprabhu's association. And on the day after their decisive meeting, then Mahaprabhu came very early in the morning he came running from the Mangalarati of Jagannath, and he had the morning prasad, and he came and knocked on Sarvabhauma's door, and Sarvabhauma was in bed, and he got up and received Mahaprabhu and immediately accepted that prasadam that Mahaprabhu gave him. And normally, according to Brahminical standards, as Chinmoy Prabhu said, then one would have to, bathe, do some offering, some worship, or at least wash their mouth out before you will go to take some prasad. But Sarvabhauma was coming from a devotional, standpoint. Mahaprabhu, the Lord himself is giving him some Mahaprasad. Immediately you have to take that. And so Mahaprabhu was overjoyed at that moment. And he said, today I have conquered the 3 worlds. That's just one of the most joyful moments in the whole of Chaitanya Charitamrita, isn't it? Mahaprabhu was so happy. Today I've conquered the 3 worlds because today Sarvabhauma has immediately taken this Mahaprasad without doing anything else. There's also there's another moment with Sarvabhauma which is very wonderful too. When he witnesses 200 Mahabhagavat Vaishnavas arriving from Navadvip to Puri, and Sarvabhauma, he's on a rooftop, and I think it's with King Pratap. Is it King Pratap Peruja? It's the king, right? And by this time, Sarvabhauma's he's a full-fledged fanatic Hare Krishna. To the point where he wants to change some words in the Bhagavatam because he thinks they aren't clear enough, in referring to Bhakti. So anyhow, so Sarvabhauma and the king, they witnessed this astounding sight. Can you imagine 200, effulgent Mahabhagavat Vaishnavas coming in divine ecstasy to see Mahaprabhu, and the king, he's also very surprised because he sees that all of these Vaishnavas, they ignore all of the normal customs that people observe when they come to a holy place, like fasting, shaving, going to bathe in the river, holy river, even going to see the deity. They there's different customary things that people will do when they come to a holy place. But instead, these Vaishnavas, they go running straight to Mahaprabhu. And not only that, but Mahaprabhu sends somebody with some prasadam to give to them. So they're ignoring the fasting. They're ignoring going, they don't even go to see Jagannath first. It's Jagannath city. They're not going to see him. They're just running in this madness to see Mahaprabhu, and Mahaprabhu is sending them sumptuous prasadam, to receive them with. And so the king is like just astonished, not critical at all, just genuinely puzzled about this. He's never seen anything like this. And so he asks Sarvabhauma, who's now the expert, what is this? What's going on? And then Sarvabhauma explains, there's Vaidhi Bhakti, Bhakti according to following regulated principles and practices, scripture. And then there's Raga Bhakti, which is based on pure spontaneous attraction of the heart. And the sincere practitioners, they're always trying to adhere to regulated practicing life. And it is only when their heart, just becomes irresistibly drawn to Krishna, then beyond their control, they will overlook other things that are important for those on a lower, practicing plane. And these things, if we want to call them Brahminical or Vaidhi Bhakti, these things, they are sattvic. They are helpful. They have their place as a support. They are the most support out of all of the gunas and all of the things of this world. They are the most supportive of devotional life. But we just have to remember where they begin and where they end, and what their limit is, and what our real ideal is, what our real goal is. So, okay, well, we still have a few minutes. Maybe we can read something from, excuse me, maybe we can read something from what I wanted to read from this chapter. This purport. So this is the end of Brahma-Samhita. The last 5 verses are especially significant. The conclusion of Brahma-Samhita, and Lord Brahma asks, Brahma's in this situation where he's attracted to Krishna Bhakti, but at the same time, he has some attachment to performing this work as the creator of this world. So, he represents, of course, he's far, far more highly evolved than ourselves, but in one sense, he represents us. What is our condition? We want to serve, but we also want to enjoy the world. And so Krishna gives 5 verses in response, which really, they summarize Sambandha Abhideya Prayojan, which I think most of you here will be familiar with those terms, but these terms are very important. They summarize our life of devotion. Sambandha means understanding our relationship with the environment, understanding our true nature, understanding the true nature of things as a whole, what is what, who is who, etc. Prayojan means what is our highest goal, and Abhideya means what is the path to that goal. So these last 5 verses, they discuss these 3 things, really. And then in regards to this main point of what was Brahma's question, then this verse 61 is the one which is most addressing that point. So I'll read that. We can conclude with that. Okay. So this is verse 61 of the Brahma-Samhita. Dharman anyam prityaja mamekam bhaja vishwasan yajashi yajashi shraddha siddhir bhavati tajashi korva nirantaram karma lokoyam anuvartate tenaiva karmana jayan mam param bhaktim ichati. Translation: abandon all other types of religion and serve me with resolve. One will attain perfection according to the nature of his faith. Perpetually pursuing worldly occupations or karma, the people of the world remain in the world. Meditate upon me through the execution of your particular work, and you will attain to loving devotion, the supreme transcendental devotion. Purport: the Dharma, religion, nature, or function of the character of pure devotion, Shuddha Bhakti, is the actual Jaiva Dharma, or eternal nature and original function of the soul. As many other religions may be found in the world, every one of them are superficial in comparison to the original function. The superficial dharmas are numerous, including the cultivation of jnana, or knowledge of Brahman, aiming at nirvana, cessation of embodied existence. The eightfold and allied forms of yoga, aiming at becoming one with the supersoul. Pious worldly works by the way of karma kanda, aiming at mundane pleasures. Jnana yoga as a relative combination of karma and jnana, and barren renunciation. The Lord is saying, give up all these attempts and embrace the religion of bhakti, devotion, which has its roots in shraddha, faith, and serve and adore me. Exclusive faith in me is resolve, vishvas. That resolute faith gradually becomes more and more lucid, and from that develops nishta, ruchi, ashakti, and bhav. Firmness, taste, depth in taste, and heartfelt sentiment of divine love. Perfection is attained in proportion to the purity of one's faith. If the question is raised, if in this way one is to be constantly engaged in pursuing perfection and devotion, how will he maintain his body, and how will the world go on? And when society and one's body cease to function, how will a man pursue perfection and devotion when he's dead? Then in order to slash such a doubt, the Lord is saying, the karma or work that the people of this world sustain the world by, execute that as a meditation. So you don't have to give that up, but perform that as a meditation and destroy the karmic or exploitative nature of those actions and establish their devotional quality. The karma or work that the people of this plane sustain the world by, perform that as a meditation and destroy the karmic or exploitative nature of those actions and establish their devotional quality. Man passes his life by engaging in three types of actions: bodily, mental, and social. The manifold bodily activities include eating, sitting, walking, reclining, sleeping, evacuating, dressing, etc. The mental activities include thought, remembrance, concentration, realization, feeling happiness and unhappiness, etc. And the social activities include marriage, the relationship of ruler and subject, brotherhood, assemblies for performing sacrifice, public welfare works, family maintenance, receiving guests, customary formalities, offering due respect to others, etc. When these actions are performed for the sake of one's own enjoyment, they are known as karma kanda. When they are performed for an opportunity of attaining enlightenment, they are known as karma yoga or jnana yoga. And when they are executed as functions conducive to the practicing life of devotion, they are known as guna bhakti yoga, or the indirect application of devotion. But only action that is symptomized by pure worship is known as direct devotion. Thus the Lord is saying, your every act will be meditation upon me when you give due time to practicing direct devotion, whilst otherwise rendering indirect devotion, in accordance with the formalities demanded by the world. In this respect, despite acting in the world, performing karma, the jiva does not become averse to the service of the Lord by turning outward to mundane trappings. This way of activity is the practice of turning inward, as it is stated in the Ishopanishad, Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagadyam jagat, tena chak tena bunjita magrida kasya chiddanam. Our revered commentator has stated, tena isha chak tena vishishtena. The purport is that whatever one accepts, when everything is accepted as one's fortune of receiving the prasad or grace of the Lord, then actions lose their quality of karma and take on the quality of bhakti. Very nice. Whatever one accepts, when everything is accepted as one's fortune of receiving the prasad or grace of the Lord, then actions lose their quality of karma and take on the quality of bhakti. Therefore, the Ishopanishad states, Korvani veha karmani Jijive chatam sama evam tvai nanyateto stina karma lipyate nare. If one acts in this way, even if he lives for hundreds of years, he cannot be touched by karma. The liberationist or jnana-oriented interpretation of these two mantras is renunciation of the fruits of work. But from the standpoint of bhakti, the purport is to gain the grace or prasad of the Lord by offering everything to him. So worldly occupations are to be executed along with the meditation of remembering the worship of the Supreme Lord, in Archan Marg, or the path of due reverence for the deity. Now, Brahma has a desire in his heart for creation. If that desire is fulfilled, along with the meditation of following the order of the Lord, by virtue of that action possessing the symptom of surrender to the Lord, it will be an indirect religious function, favorable to the nourishment of and within the purview of devotion. This is the reasonable way of the Lord's instruction to Brahma. The jiva who has attained to bhav, or internal heartfelt devotion, is naturally indifferent to all but Krishna, and so such an instruction does not apply in his case. And that's the end of that purport. I'll just read this penultimate paragraph again, because it's the kind of like the essence of this discussion. Brahma has a desire in his heart, in terms of relevance to ourselves. Brahma has a desire in his heart for creation. If that desire is fulfilled along with the meditation of following the order of the Lord, by virtue of that action possessing the symptom of surrender to the Lord, it will be an indirect religious function, favorable to the nourishment of and within the purview of devotion. This is the reasonable way of the Lord's instruction to Brahma. Very nice, very nice. All right, well, should we stop there for today? Does anyone want to add any closing comments or suggestions for next week? Okay, well, our gratitude as always, especially to Chinmoy Prabhu for hosting this, making this possible.
Thank you, Didi. Really. The least I can do.
Oh. And all of you who are very kindly joining and making this a lively meeting, giving me your good association. Seamus had a very nice comment when we began. Last week somehow was quite special. We had a bigger group than usual. It was more international, and Seamus mentioned it felt like a festival. So it did feel like that, We're having a virtual festival in the midst of the craziness of the world right now. We're still able to gather and have these festive meetings. So I'm very grateful to all of you for making that possible. Okay, well, my Dandavat Pranams, wishing you all the best for the upcoming week.
Jai Vishakha Devi Dasi ki jai.
Jai Shri Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Swami Maharaj ki jai. Jai Chinmoy Prabhu ki jai. Jai Suvasini ki jai. Jai Govinda Nandini ki jai. All the assembled Vaishnavas and sincere seekers ki jai. Jai Gaur Premanande.
Hari Bol.